Right.
Okay.
All set. 10.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Baptizo International Convention 2021. We are Tan and Ian from the university who will be the moderator for this session. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank you for your participation and contribution. We are delighted to see all of you in live virtual presence today, especially in this featured session. We do hope that all of you will be able to have some valuable knowledge and experience as takeaways following the talk.
And just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the chat box in your Zoom control panel. We'll bring them up during the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. Now, without any further ado, we will turn the time to Thomas Robb. Thomas Robb is Professor Emeritus at Kyoto Sangyo University. He has created a number of websites and applications for extensive reading, student projects, interactive learning, and professional exchange. He has also held numerous leadership positions in International TESOL, Japan Association of Language Teaching, PACL, the Pacific Association for Computer Assisted Language Learning, and now he's the chair of the Extensive Reading Foundation. He's also the editor of the Electronic Journal for English as a Second Language, the first online journal for English language teaching. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Thomas Robb.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here online. I'd be happier if I were there, okay, in VIN, but unfortunately that's not in the cards for this year. I have, I think, a useful presentation for you, and I can't share it unless the host allows screen sharing, please. Host is disable participant screen sharing. So can you
we have allowed you to share now.
Yes, you have. Okay, great. All right. So here is my presentation, Ways to Use Online Materials for Extensive Reading. And this is, it's not supposed to do that. This is what I promised in my abstract. And I'm looking at online material that's available for free, okay? Now, there are graded readers, and graded readers are supposedly the type of material you're supposed to use for extensive reading. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have graded readers, so they say, well, I can't do extensive reading because I don't have any graded readers. Not true, okay? And that's why, that's what this is all about. Now, first, before I get into the materials, let me explain a bit about extensive reading from my own approach. Of course, there are four things that I say are needed. One is the teacher, that's you, okay? And the instructor needs some knowledge of extensive reading, and hopefully is somebody who likes to read him or herself, and who is willing, and this is important, to depart from the standard curriculum. Because when you're starting in your school, you are going to be the only person doing extensive reading. And if the other teachers or the principal says, you can't do that, you have to finish the textbook, you're never going to get anywhere, okay? So you have to be slightly brave. You need the material, and it has to be not just any material, it has to be at the appropriate level, either on their level or below their level. And that's why graded readers are good, because you can find material that's at their own level. And then there has to be time for the students to read, either in class or outside of class. Either is possible. Of course, if it's outside of class, you also have to have a way to check that they're really doing the reading, because students are very busy, and if they think they don't have to do it, they won't do it. And then motivation, which is what I just talked about. Students must be motivated to read, although in most cases, this will mainly entail extrinsic motivation. That means you make them, okay? As a required goal and incorporation of their performance in their final grade. So even though ideally, according to Richard Day and Julian Bamford, it's supposed to be something that they want to do, and the reward is just the reading. It isn't true for most cases in a school situation. So it's a required goal, and it has to be for final part of their final grade. Okay, so I just said this, so I'll skip that. So graded readers are great, but they cost money. You have to have a place to keep them. There must be a system for checking them in and out, and students must be able to access them regularly. And of course, with COVID-19, even if you had the graded readers, they couldn't get into the library to borrow them. So everyone had to find another way to do it. Well, of course, many people temporarily found a budget to use X Reading, which has reading material online. I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's not a free system. So how do you get them to read? There are some basic principles. One, you have to, as I already mentioned, offer them material that's at or lower than their current level of their current reading level. The material must be interesting for them. That's not always possible, but hopefully we try to find stuff that will appeal to them. So they should be able to select from a variety of topics. And you need to require them to do a specific amount of reading. And you have to have some means of tracking how much they have read, because after all, you want to assign them a grade. So there's various record-keeping systems. You can have self-reports, a quick 50-word summary. There's quite a bit, and I'll show you, if we have time, some ways later that you can do this. And you need motivational strategies. For example, competitions between the students, or sharing the reading experiences with mini presentations, maybe in groups. This will help motivate them to continue to read. Okay, so here is the meat of the presentation. Some good sites with online reading material. Now, this is one that we have made called freegradedreaders.com. Unfortunately, there aren't that many free graded readers because graded readers are usually written for payment. They're published by a publisher, and the publisher sells them. So how do you get free ones? Well, actually, I found some that are out of copyright, some authors that they published them a long time ago, and now there's no copyright in them. Now, I'm going to show you these very quickly, these slides, because this is online reading for fluency, and this is that site, and the quizzes with them. The reason I showed that very quickly is because I have it live for you to see, okay? So I'm going to walk you through it. Now, here's the freegradedreaders.com site, and at the very top of it, when you log in, it explains the system to you and the students, and talks about the 5-finger rule. Are you familiar with the 5-finger rule? What it means is they look at a page and they count on their fingers how many words they don't know, okay? On a standard page. Of course, if it's a big page with small type, there'll be more words that they don't know. But if they can see that there are only 2 or 3 words on a page that they don't know, then maybe it's suitable for them. If there are too many difficult words, they should put it down and find something else. All right, and now up here, here are the suffer levels. So there's A1, and here are 2 books by Paul Nation and Jerry Meister. These they wrote when they were young, and they were living in Indonesia and teaching in Indonesia. And now these are available too. Sorry for the advertisements, but there are advertisements on this. Here are 2, 3 that are from a series that died. The Edward Arnold Reader Library was taken over by Penguin, and then they just didn't publish them anymore. So there are those, and these are from Ellie, the Italian publisher, and these are flip books. These you can't print out, you have to see them on screen, but these are all available. And the M here means that if you use the M-Reader system for graded readers, you can take quizzes, or the students can take quizzes on them. And then there's A2, which has more stories. This is by Peter Viney, who is a well-known author. Jennifer Bassett, who is the editor of the Oxford Bookworm series. So these are all available for free. And so on and so forth. So there's some at B1 and B2, C1. This just has an Ellie flip reader, and C2, which is the highest level. If your students are here, they probably don't need graded readers so much. But there's also here the mid-frequency readers, which is a concept that Paul Nation is championing. So he has taken books, and his team, from the Gutenberg Project, which has free literature, but it's all copyright literature and mostly old because it doesn't have copyright anymore. But what he has done is he's reduced the number of difficult words. So you can read the story at the 400 word level. If you know 4,000 word level, if you know that many, you can read the story. And then after you've read it, now you're familiar with the story, you can try again at the 6,000 word level or the 8,000 word level to read the same story again. And since now you have the background information, maybe you can read it at that level, and you'll see a lot more vocabulary that you probably don't know. And so there are all of these here, which are quite usable after your students have gotten above the 3,000 word level. And then here, I call it shorter ER. ER Central, I'll mention, I'm sure Rob Waring mentioned it this morning in his presentation. And here are other materials which I'm going to go through one by one after this one. And also Rong Chung's material here. So he has a lot of material at various levels. These are all the elementary ones. I put the intermediate ones in a separate one here. But the only issue with these, it's all about American culture. They're basically made for people who are already in the United States, but don't know the language yet and don't know the culture yet. But they all have, they're all in a similar format. So there's a reading. Oh, well, this is a text here, but you can listen to the reading. And very often, this one doesn't have it. There's also a close exercise that you can use. So there's a lot of material here, but you might not want to give them such a big dose of American culture. It's sort of imperialistic in a sense, but it's useful material, and hey, it's free. So let me go back. Okay, so let me take something for intermediate learners, which is more standard, new to America. So here is the sound, here is the text, and as you can see here, there's vocabulary help, there's yes, no questions, and other things, the dictation and crossword keys and so forth. So all of that is available, rongchung.com. By the way, at the end of the slides, I have a bibliography, the references that are all clickable, and also I have a link to this whole PowerPoint slide set, so you can download them. Okay, so that is the online. That's, I have to keep going back since. Okay, so come on, one more. All right. So anyway, that's basically this. You can have a look and see what's there, but basically anything that you see here except for the LA flip books, you can download, copy for your students so they don't have to have devices, or you can give them the URL and have them access it. Either way works. Okay, now this site I made rather recently, and these are from the British Council. These two, these are from Rong Chong's site, and there are the same ones that you can get through the other one. And then there's Voice of America here. And the reason this is different is because each of these has a quiz. So that's the reading. But if I click on, which one did I just click on? Oh, the refund. Here, you get a short three question quiz about every single one of the readings that you see here. This one here, the Voice of America, is, well, it looks like this. These are all about famous people, mostly already dead, that are famous in the United States, not all Americans. And this is originally a radio broadcast, but here is the entire script. The students can listen to it, or you can just have them read the text. It's made for learners, so it's not too difficult, but if there are too many words that you think your students would not know, you can always make a vocabulary list before you have them read it. I actually have them do listening. I have them do you know strip stories, where you cut this into different sentences, and then I have them mix the sentences and play the sound, and they have to find the sentences on their desk and put them in the right order, which is an interesting activity. So these are all available on this site. The only problem is that there's no automatic recording of their scores when they take the quizzes. So they have to take a screenshot, or if you trust them, they have to report which ones they've read and how much. Ideally, I want to turn this into a site that's sort of like mReader, which is for graded readers, where they take a quiz and it's recorded on their class page so they can see how much they have read, and you can see how much each student has read. But that's not possible right now, because this was done in Google as a Google quiz in the, it's not called Google Docs, what's it called? It doesn't come to me, Forms. So it didn't allow any sort of storage of the material for teachers to refer to or students to refer to later. Okay, so that's that one. Now let's go on to English Central. Are you familiar with English Central? I'm looking at my other screen here. I thought I had the chat session up, but I don't see it here. Okay, but English Central has lots of reading, thousands of readings, and they are by level. This is level 8, between level 8 and 9. This is say level 12, search, oops. And there, you can also choose by, if you want, some particular subject area or stories, what kind of story it is, and so forth. And each of these has a quiz, and also it's possible for you to register your class, and when students access the site, you can see the results. Okay, so it's very useful for that, and I highly recommend it. This is Robb Waring's site, along with Charlie Brown in Tokyo. And they've put a lot of their own money into it, which they aren't getting back, even though there are advertisements, just like the site I showed you before. So, but anyway, it is a great site, and I hope you can use that. All right, next. Let's see. Let's go to Voice of America. What did I do? Okay. Oh, I'm back to the PowerPoint. All right, so this is Voice of America, and it has beginning level, intermediate level, and advanced level, but inside intermediate, actually, there are additional levels. The intermediate level is the one with the most material that I think would be useful for students. So here are readings, and these, they put new readings on the site every week. And all of the past ones are also available. There's a search here, which you can use. Let me just click on one. So there's material. It highlights some words that they think the students might not know. And one of my favorite ones is actually the audio here.
Love right here on VOA1.
Because there are lots of broadcasts here. And if you look at the audio menu here, now it's not appearing. I'll show you on the slides, but that is strange. Maybe it's in the video. Well, it's on my slides, but I can't find it now. I'm sorry. But it has a lot of stories with scripts about American literature, like Edgar Allan Poe. You can listen to the story, but there's a script also, so the students can read it. So this has the 3 levels here. Now let's go to the British Council site. Now the British Council site, there are 3 of them actually. This is Learn English Kids, and then there's Learn English Teens, which I'll get to, and then the Learn English site for adults. And these here say no to bullying. This is useful. There isn't all that much at the kids level, which is useful, but this one here, almost every country has a problem with bullying. And so there's that there. And then there's also the Football World Cup, which many of your students, especially the guys, are probably interested in. And so those are under the reading practice one here. Of course, depending on your objective, there's also listening and watching, grammar, vocabulary activities, and so forth. But this is at a very low level for kids. Then here is the site that I like the most. This is Learn. No, that's not it. What happened to the teen site? Okay, Learn English Teens. Okay, and here there's reading both here, and then under study break, there's graded reading here. And this here, the skills, if you click on reading, this reading, however, is not stories. It's all reading that's useful for daily life. For example, if you go to this one here, an Olympic blog, food and restaurants. This has a little description of various restaurants. So it's not a standard story. And that's true for all of the readings here. They aren't long readings. If you want them, you come over here to the graded reading. And here, this is at different levels. And let's go to the elementary A2 level. And there are lots of stories. They're all actually written by the same person, but they're pretty good. And you can see this is A Walk in the Forest A2. And if I go to upper intermediate, oh, there's A Walk in the Forest B2. And what it is this, all of these stories are available at 3 different levels. And so your students can read the A2 version, and then the A1, B1 version, and then the B2 version. And here's a list of which ones are the most popular. And so to give you a sample, let's look at A Walk in the Forest at the A2 level. Okay, see how much there is here on Tuesday? Just this here. Going through the forest is my favorite part of the walk. My dog Benji loves it too. I'm Grace. I live on a farm with my parents, and I take Benji for a walk most days after school. Okay, so that's that. But now if we go to the B2 version, now Tuesday is this long. So it gets a lot longer. And going through the forest is my favorite part of the walk. Benji loves it too. There are rabbits to chase and old leaves to smell. Benji's my dog, by the way, and I'm Grace. I live in a farm with my parents and take Benji for a walk most days after school. So you can progressively get them to read the same story with more vocabulary and probably also more interesting. And then going back to English, Learn English Teens, if I can, to the top. They do the same thing with graded listening. So choose a level and you can get the same story of the survivor. It's just this one story. There are popular. That's interesting. Episode 1 and then 6 must be the last one. So everyone skipped episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. But anyway, it's like this. So it's a story that the students can listen to. And obviously, it's fairly exciting. So exciting that they skipped everything and got to the end. All right. And of course, there are other things here that are also useful depending on your students' needs. Okay, and then this is the adult site, has business English, vocabulary, grammar. It does have reading here, and the reading is at 5 different levels. But this is, again, rather utilitarian. An email from a friend, an end of term report, an invitation to a job interview. Okay, so this is all types of English that the students might need for daily lives or living in England or another English speaking country. Now this one, I didn't bring it back, is rather unusual. These are stories from Ethiopia. They're folk stories from Ethiopia, from each of the provinces. The British Council had a project to record them. And then they printed books for the students to read for extensive reading. But they couldn't print books for all the various provinces. And so they put it online. So you can go like this. This is from the Amhara region of Ethiopia. And here are the stories. And you click on a story. It looks like this. So they're all illustrated with at least one picture. And you can also listen to the story. And I think there's a way to change the language. That's not going to help because it's only English and then Amharic or a local Ethiopian language. So I think you'll do best with English. So there's lots of stories here. I haven't counted them, but there must be 50 to 100 stories. And you could have the students each read one and then try to explain it orally or write a summary of it, or just read as many as possible and keep a record of them. All right, now this here is something you can't use if you don't have graded readers, but I'm just showing it to you so that you know that it's here. This is my MReader site, and oh dear, that's what happens when you prepare in advance. So I can go to a class and you see all the students, and then you can click on a student's name and you can see all the books that they've read and a listing of all the books and so forth. This student's current level is 9. And the reason I'm showing this to you is it is possible for you to do something like this, even if you aren't using MReader. You can do something like this on paper in order to encourage your students to continue to read. And then here, this is the extensive reading website, the ER Foundation website. And I just like to point out a couple of things here. So here is this guide to extensive reading in quite a few languages. And here is Vietnamese. Thank you, In, for helping with that. She helped with the translation. And so you might want to download this, either the English version. If you're attending this session, probably the English version is enough. You don't need to have the Vietnamese version, but both are available. And then under free reading materials, what I just showed you actually, and then the ER toolkit here. You might find this useful, reading logbooks. This is something you can download and print out. And it comes in 4 different PDF versions. The A version looks like this on each page. And the B version has room for whether they thought it was difficult. They can rate the difficult 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how much they liked it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many words in a total. So they can keep a cumulative total. And here they all have this as the first page. Well, this is the top page, the inside first page, and then there are pages that look like this in either style. And then there's one version which is just 4 pages, just the top, this, and then 2 pages of this, and another one which is 2 sheets, so you get 6 pages for the record. So you can download this and print it out and distribute it to your students. There's also other information here which you might find useful, and material you can download for presentations if you want to present to other people about extensive reading. Okay, I've gone through all of the links there, so now I can go back to the PowerPoint and let's see if I've covered everything. No, when I went to the ER Central, I didn't show you the record keeping system. So here is how ER Central can keep a record of what your students read, including the average reading speed and of course, the total number of words that they read. And so this could be quite useful. And you can also listen to them. So this has the listening time over here. And these I showed you. This here is what I was trying to find and I couldn't find. This is a sample of one of the Voice of America stories, weekly stories. And here's how you might want to use them. Students can be instructed to read all the same article, especially if you're going to provide some vocabulary help for it, or to select one of them that's interesting to them. And you can also have them look at the past articles, not just the current ones. If they're all doing the same article, I said someone can provide definitions for help with them, and maybe they can share that on WhatsApp or on some sort of a class group, and they can cooperate on making the vocabulary. For individual use, however, I wonder if I can make this smaller. Yes, okay. You need to be sure that everyone does the work, okay? No free riders. If you have a group, one problem is that one person can do most of the work and the other people just let that person do it and don't do any work themselves. So you have to be sure you have some system so that everyone is doing the work. Okay, so they can keep a log of the articles that they read with comments or perhaps a list of new vocabulary. So here is a Dr. Heidegger's experiment, and it's called American Stories, this section, and I'm not sure why I couldn't find it today. So it looks like this. Here are all, let's see, Nathaniel Hawthorne, O. Henry, Mark Twain, Stephen Crane. So these are all famous American authors. And frankly, I'm not sure if it's simplified or it's the original. But you can always prepare vocabulary for it if it isn't, if the material is too difficult. Okay, so that's the audio menu for it. So you need to look for this logo, which is what I was looking for and couldn't find. And the screens look like this, and this plays. So no, this doesn't play now. That's in the graphic. Okay. And now the British Council sites, one thing I didn't mention is that they have a little level test, which you can try. And after the student tries the level test, then they can try to find suitable content by level or what section they want or what topic they want. So this is quite handy. And here's the kids site, which I showed you. And here is that. And here is this I showed you. There's another sample of a daily life type of practice for reading that's on the teen site. And here's the walk in the forest. And here is a graded listening of Survivor. And this is the adult section here. And now this is Rongchon stuff, which I mentioned to you. And here's the Ethiopian folk tales. Now this I haven't mentioned yet, common problems with online sites. One problem, this isn't a problem with ER Central, but with many, there's no student registration or tracking. So you need a way to find out whether the students have done what you requested them to do or not, because the website won't do it for them. Unfortunately, that's the case with most websites because it's difficult. And also, if you're registering students, then there's a security problem. Somebody could access a site and get their names or their emails or something. So you can't just make a simple system for registration. It has to be secure. And people are afraid about that. In fact, the United States government, in their English language site, they have a very nice game, but they wouldn't do any tracking for it because they didn't want to get involved with the security issue. Some sites say it's free, but there's a sample. But if you want more, then you got to pay. So watch out for those. The material is free online, but you can't make printed copies, like the LE flip books, for example. You can see them online, but you can't make printed copies unless you wanted to take a whole bunch of screenshots. The material is targeted to native speaking children, so it has vocabulary, idioms, and cultural references that ELT students would not understand. And there are a lot of sites for American kids, I know. And they're for native speaking kids, and there's a lot of reading there, but there's a lot of material there that they will not your students, my students in Japan, will not understand because they don't have the cultural background for it. And then there's material like the Gutenberg material, which is old, out of copyright material. So it's stale, right? It's like bread that's gone hard. So the style of the language and the cultural references also are too old. Now here is one site which actually was good, and it's free and is useful. So here's one about the little gingerbread man, and it has nice illustrations. And why it's free, I don't know, but it's there and it's free, and there's a link at the end for that. And then there's the resources for teachers. I've mentioned this already. And my site for MReader, which has a leaderboard on the top page of who has read the most. And X Reading, which I also mentioned to you, but this is a paid site. If you have the money, it's worth it because you don't have to buy any books or manage any books. It's all there, and they have over 1,000 books to read with quizzes, and most of them also have listening. But it does cost a little money, but then they're available for a full year to the students. And here's the reading log, which I showed you. Now here is how to make a reading log yourself. If you go to tinyurl, Google-reading-record, and you follow these instructions, you can make automatically a list with all of your students down here. And for each student, let's see if I can pull this up. No, I don't think I can. Here, you can see it. It will automatically, you paste in the names of students here, it will make a tab like this for every student. And so each student then can write what they have done and how many words they've read. And you as a teacher can see it on the top page. If you use this, there's a warning here. If you receive a warning that the sheet is not secure, just trust it. You will get that warning only once. That's because you're using a sheet that is on my Google site. And when you save it, you are saving it to your Google site. And that's why you get the warning. So this is free to use. And here are the links, the British Council sites, the Voice America site, Rongchon's site, ER Central, the extensive reading sites that I showed you. Here's X Reading, and Story Weaver was the one of the little gingerbread man. And Tiny, this one here, Asia Foundation, Let's Read. This has a lot of material in multiple languages, not just English, but Asian languages in general. But it's also worth a look. And here is the ERF Facebook group. And this is the spreadsheet I showed you on Google, MReader. But remember, you can't use it unless you have rated readers, books. And this is just a good article on extensive reading. And then finally, this PowerPoint, if you'd like to download it, tinyurl.com/Teasel-Robb. Okay, and it's not necessary to have the capital and small letters like this. On tinyurl, it can be all small or all large letters, and it'll go to the same place. So that's all I had. And I think, oh, we have 5 minutes left. Sorry about that. So I'm going to stop my share and we can have Q&A.
So thank you, Tom. We will go ahead and take some time for questions now. Just a reminder, please be sure to type the question into the question box in your control panel.
Thank you, Wen Huaidong, for putting all the URLs there in the chat.
Thank you. I think we got quite a few people who are who were asking questions about how they can collect all of the web signs, but I guess the last slides have answered the question already. Saren Sock. So I think you've got that one. And okay, so let's go for a question from Mai Phương. Which page do you recommend for teachers to control very well the students' reading progress? Are there any web signs that allow you to control the students' reading progress?
No, not really. Well, ER Central to start, because it does track progress. For all the rest, you have to have some way yourself to track their progress. And of course, with extensive reading, it isn't easy to see progress, because it's not like you get a grade on what you read and you can go up to the next level, right? It takes a long time to see results with extensive reading, months and months and lots of words. So I would say start with ER Central, but you can look at all those other sites I presented to you and copy and distribute them in class, and you'll find out which ones the students like. And then the next term, you'll know that this one worked and this one and that one did not work.
Yeah. We've got another question from Dick Va. Is there any corpus provided for English instructors to include the lexical resources from these sources in their teaching and learning assessment?
You mean like word lists of the top 1,000 words or most frequent words and so forth? Is that what
I guess so.
The person means? Well, on the extensive reading website, we do have an archive of publishers' materials, which includes their own lists of most frequent words that they recommend authors to use, which is possible. There's also, well, but maybe it's not necessary, because if you go to ercentral.com, it has a way for you to copy and paste in a text, and then you can choose what level your students are at, and it will show you the words which are too difficult for students at that level. And then you can change those words or delete them or whatever. So rather than having a list that for you to directly refer to, it's probably best to look at that site or the Canadian Lex Tutor CA site, which also is similar. It allows you to take a text and edit it down to the level of your students.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Hang Nguyen asks you, Stephen Krashen believes that when it comes to ER, students should read nonfiction text rather than fiction. What is your opinion on this?
Well, both have a place, but the students will be more interested in fiction than nonfiction. And so I think that at the beginning, nonfiction is probably better for the students. But of course, if they're technically oriented, there's lots of nonfiction available now for the students to read. But eventually, they need to specialize in one area. That is the area that interests them the most. Narrow reading is something that Steve Krashen recommends, which means that the content is restricted to one book series, for example, or one genre of reading, like architecture or whatever. You try to read just material in that. So yeah, I think both are good, but I think yes, nonfiction at the beginning would be rather difficult for most students. Maybe in the USC, Krashen's mind is more thinking of students living in an English-speaking country with lots of resources and so forth, not us overseas, or not we. You aren't overseas, you're in your own country. In a non-English speaking country that don't have those resources readily available to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I can see Nguyễn Hoàng Phan Wang. Given the central role of vocabulary in acquiring language competency, are there any lexically based curricular and course book out there?
Can you point out where that is in the?
Okay, I'm just gonna copy to the chat so you can easily see it again.
Yeah, Rob Waring, while you're doing that, Rob says nonfiction has more middle frequency vocabulary. It's more useful for intermediates, which is basically what I was saying, right? So when they're starting, and assuming that most of your students are probably at the 2,000 word level when you're teaching them, hopefully you'll get them up to the 3,000 word level. Probably fiction is more useful. Can you please look at my question above? How far above?
Oh, since Saren. I think Saren was asking something about as the curriculum have to be completed within a period of time, can we add an ER in that schedule? How does it fit in our tight schedule already?
Yes, well, that's always a problem. They do the work outside of class. Okay, they do the extensive reading outside of class so that it's not impinging on your already busy schedule in class. Of course, they'll say, but I have a lot of homework. I can't do anything else. But if you require it, they'll do it, basically.
Okay, it seems like we do have a few more questions, but we're running out of time. So attendees, if you have any further questions or concerns, or if you want to ask Thomas Robb any other questions, you can always email him directly. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah, I'll just give you my email address.
Okay, so Tom just provided his email address in the chat box. I can copy that. And it looks like we will have to stop feature speed right now. Is there anything you wanted to cover before closing it, Tom?
No, that's it. I'm giving another presentation if you do have graded readers on mReader, but I'll also talk about how you can adapt that to a situation where you don't have graded readers.
Okay, 10.
All right, so thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure being with you today. On behalf of VIC 2021, we wish you all the best with a productive day and meaningful rest of our virtual convention. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
And thank you so much, Rob. It was very useful. I could see a lot of people texting in the chat box saying thank you for the very useful websites that they were looking for a long time.